So today I'm talking about gratitude and the 4 stages of spiritual growth. That these ideas of growing spiritually, and sometimes it's been called the stages of spiritual development by Michael Beckwith, which is where I got this today. It's also been called the kingdoms of consciousness by Lloyd Strong. There's many different ways to look at it. But often we come to a spiritual center from a place of wanting something else, don't we? Maybe our faith tradition before didn't work so well, or doesn't fit with us anymore, or we just want some more expansion in our life. So the idea of gratitude is huge, and all faiths and spiritual traditions, that's the one thing that unites us, is gratitude and appreciation. When you think about Jesus, his method of approach during his entire ministry was to give thanks first, and then he commanded the law to work. Giving thanks first, in advance. So praising and blessing everything in our life, also the difficulty, is an acknowledgement of the presence of God, of love. And it reconnects us. So I have a couple questions first that I want you just to ponder. Why do you think it's important to notice our thoughts and feelings? And what do you think is needed to change our experiences from negative to positive and life-affirming? So I think I'll be answering those questions for you today. So today's lesson is about the evolution of our consciousness. And these 4 stages that I'm going to talk about, where life is done to me, by me, through me, and as me. It's an evolution. And they're very similar to what St. Teresa, who was a 16th century mystic, described as transformation from body to soul, from silkworm to butterfly, as we dissolve into our own holiness. What a beautiful idea. That we're all eventually dissolving into holiness, becoming the butterfly. We progress from relying on our physical senses to relying on the interior wisdom of our soul and spirit. That's our evolution in consciousness. So I'm going to read from Entering the Castle, a short excerpt from Carolyn Mace's book, which we just finished a book study here on this, based on St. Teresa of Avila's work with the soul. The soul builds a cocoon where it will die, says Teresa, only to be liberated into flight once fully mature. She could not have chosen a more perfect metaphor, for the caterpillar has no choice but to spin a cocoon and become a butterfly. It is its destiny. The same is true for the soul. This is the perfect metaphor to describe the ending of one cycle of consciousness and the beginning of another. The time within the cocoon can be difficult, for the soul doesn't know how long it must remain in the darkness. The silkworm is in a highly vulnerable state, unable to protect itself, relying on camouflage to conceal it from predators. The soul is kind of between worlds, between identities. What cocoons have you had to endure in your life? The experience of dying to a certain kind of life and being born into another is archetypical, like the phoenix descending into the ashes, only to be reborn and rise once again. You may struggle all the way into the cocoon, but you cannot sidestep a cocoon experience if it's time for one in your life. You can choose, however, how to experience the cocoon. Yeah, you can choose how to experience your cocoon. You may be able to draw comfort from recognizing that you are preparing for emergence into the light. rather than fear that you are alone in a dark, lonely place. To be able to illuminate your most painful moments and times with the mystical truth that you are living a transformation in progress brings God into the walls of your soul. We're all transformations in progress, aren't we? I think we are. So each of these stages I'm going to talk about, we don't stay in one, hopefully, especially the first one, forever. We have this movement as we learn and we grow. And this process of spiritual evolution is using our mind and our heart to move through these stages until we experience our oneness with God and with all of life. And you can choose a different word than God, if love or spirit or presence or source, it doesn't matter. It's just you connecting with that greater aspect. So the first stage of our evolution is where we feel that life is done to me. This is where we play victim. We feel powerless, we feel helpless, we can be angry, we can be upset very quickly. We feel like sometimes we're being punished or tested in our life. We blame and shame everything around us for being the way we are. We can get depressed. And this type of living is very fear-based. And we've all been here, haven't we? Let's admit it. And maybe you're there now. It's just good to notice. This is just a stage. We don't have to live here. So when we think life is done to me, we ask, why is this happening? And we feel stuck. So we unknowingly, when we're in this stage, invite circumstances that make us feel like victims, where everything is against us. So take a breath. And know that this stage is very temporary, or it can be. And we learn in this spiritual community how to move out of that, don't we? So I have an affirmation here. I am grateful that I am willing to turn from victim to victor. Can you say that with me? I am grateful that I am willing to turn from victim to victor, to give up victimhood. But you have to be willing. You have to notice that that's where you live. And so the journey to consciousness then becomes a little bit different in stage 2. Where now we begin to think or notice that life is done by me. We learn about choice. And that's usually the first thing that most people that come to a spiritual center like this realize is, oh, I don't have to be angry, or oh, I don't have to do this or that, I have a choice. We learn about the law of attraction, the law of the universe. We learn about the divine within us, that we believe here in our philosophy that God, the divine being, is not something outside of us up on a cloud, but it's everywhere present. It is within everything and everyone. We begin in this stage to transcend our history. We also talk a lot in Science of Mind about the past has no precedence, meaning your past doesn't matter. The moment is now. Now is a powerful moment to transform. And you can transform anything, anytime, if you're willing. Doesn't matter what or how long you've done anything. This is also the stage where we begin to release blame and shame. We realize, oh, darn it, I can't blame them for my sucky life, or my whatever it is. We take responsibility here. We begin to take responsibility. We start to use our intuition a little bit more. We become more hopeful. We feel more empowered. This is where we start to use tools, spiritual mind treatment, affirmations, visualization. So we start to realize, oh, again, I have these tools, I'm a choice, I cannot play victim, I can move out of that and feel something different. This stage is where I love my experience as being a licensed spiritual practitioner, and I'm sure I can speak for all the practitioners, and as a life coach, to move people from that victim stage into a higher sense of knowing. And it's a very powerful place for us as we are trained to help lift you up out of that other place. And that's why we take classes here. That's why we offer classes. Joy's offering a class in January. Peter's offering Foundations. I'm offering Think Better, Live Better with Francine Huss's new book. You have a lot of opportunities to feed your consciousness life-affirming things to help you on your path. So please take advantage of that. So my affirmation here is, I am grateful that I trust that the law of good goes before me and prepares the way. So let's repeat this after me. I am grateful that I trust that the law of good goes before me and prepares the way. Take a breath. So we're continuing to evolve here, aren't we? The next stage, or kingdom, or realm, is we realize or experience that life is done through me. We begin to surrender in this stage a little bit more. Through me means that we understand that we're a vehicle, an expression, a vessel for the divine to act through us. We realize more of our unity with life, oneness with life. We begin to really deepen our spiritual practices. It's not something that you have to do, it's something that you would do because it's just part of your nature now. You would not think of getting up in the morning without thanking the universe or God, and giving great thanks in the evening as well, and blessing everything and everyone you see. That just becomes part of what you do. You begin to feel more peaceful here, more free and more expansive in your life. Because you're allowing that divine life, that divine energy to move through you. You're living in grace. Life is in harmony and ease. And this is the area where you really make a conscious decision to be used by God, or by love, or by spirit, or by source, whatever name you want to use. This awareness here expresses itself as positive self-image, healthy relationships, success, no struggle, understanding. We open our wings here, don't we? This is where I feel that butterfly is just kind of starting to come out. So the affirmation here is, I open the doorway of my consciousness to a greater influx of the divine. Repeat. I open the doorway of my consciousness to a greater influx from the divine. And there's more. You're not even there yet. Or maybe you are. So the last, and I say the last stage, there's really, this is just a guidepost, believe me. Stage 4, it is said, life is done as me. Ernest Holmes has a wonderful saying, life spiritualized is life simplified. Life spiritualized is life simplified. So what I get from that is, if I understand and turn to that divine life within me for everything, it's a simple process in my life. I don't have to worry, plan, get upset. Everything is going to be shown me the right way. Teach me and show me the way. This is where we really release our sense of separation from our good. And we develop what's called witness consciousness. Have you heard of that before? So witness consciousness is when we're able to rise above any circumstance or situation on the outside that's happening that seems traumatic or dramatic. We're able to not judge it or condemn it or blame it. We simply hold a higher love and compassion and empathy for it, like Deepak said. We're able to just hold it without judgment. We witness what's happening, especially in our own lives, if we're dealing with anything. That we're able to consciously connect back to our breath, to the divine, to God, to source, to spirit, and know that this too shall pass. And know it from a deep knowing place of faith. This is where we really have a lot of faith. It's also known as the mystic mind, where we believe one power, one presence, and it feels like wholeness and love. Wholeness and love. And in this stage, we lack nothing. Hear that? We lack nothing. And then what happens is our life and our work becomes service, an expression of service. That we're only here to serve in our unique way. So what if, as Joel Goldsmith says, there isn't a right path and a wrong path, there's only a spiritual path? What if you reminded yourself of that when you are facing something? When you don't know what to do? Indecision. Anybody been there? No. There's always a solution in mind, in spiritual, in divine mind. There's always a solution. I think Wayne Dyer said there's a spiritual solution to everything. There is. Also because there's no problem. Ultimately. So what if everything in our life was sacred? Everything. What if everything in our life was a guidepost to bring us back? So we're a choice, aren't we? Every moment of every day. We can have life being done to me, by me, through me, or as me. And again, this is all fluid. We go through these stages multiple times, or we can't. I'm losing my ear. So I want to read one last thing, and just have you think about this. Ernest Holmes, who's the founder of Science of Mind, in his study of the world's religions, discovered the mystical roots, the belief in oneness and our connection with it. And he made them the foundation of Science of Mind. We are a teaching order, we say, not a preaching order. And we offer a way of life that is profoundly mystical. For mysticism is the art and practice of oneness, which is our core belief. Ernest Holmes defines a mystic as one who is intuitively sensing reality with a big R. There is such an attunement to spirit that you are convinced of your oneness with the infinite, and you go beyond that to the perception that all life, visible and invisible, is the wholeness of God. It might be said that the mystic lives from the inside out, in that the invisible truth is more real to you than the appearance and condition of your life. That the truth, with a big T, is more real to you than the appearance or condition of your life. Essentially, the mystic lives a life of inclusivity, love, and compassion for all. Does this mean that the mystic has it together all the time? Do you have it together all the time? No, I don't either. However, the mystic is mindful. We are mindful and aware of our thoughts, feelings, words, and actions. That's why we come to spiritual community, to be reminded, to pay attention, don't we? While we lovingly embrace both the light and the shadow of our being, we shine the light of awareness on all of it. Thus, we integrate all aspects of ourselves. And we're all evolving, aren't we? We're all evolving. And as we open, become receptive, and realize and surrender to that innermost presence, our life expands and we live more fully. Our lives shine with the light of the divine, and each of us is a beneficial presence on this planet, as you each are. Just looking at you, it just fills my heart with such gratitude. So I'm grateful today to finish knowing that we use our mind and our heart to connect ourselves, to move through the stages, seek out a practitioner, know that you are loved. And my final affirmation is, I praise my life, I raise my life in the name of love. It's one of my favorite mantras I do all the time. Repeat after me. I praise my life.
I praise my life.
I raise my life.
I raise my life.
In the name of love.
In the name of love.
I praise my life.
I praise my life.
I raise my life.
I raise my life.
In the name of love.
In the name of love.
One more time. I praise my life.
I praise my life.
I raise my life.
I raise my life.
In the name of love.
In the name of love.
Travel well. Namaste.